We're working on it. There we go. All right. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for your patience as we work out the usual technical glitches. It happens, and we appreciate your patience with that. So welcome to the worship service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Steve O'Day, and I'm a member of the Sunday Setup team. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, and gender identities, and abilities as well. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Those values and principles help to remind us that we in Northampton inhabit unceded land of the Pecumtuck and Nipmuc peoples. They remind us to acknowledge our responsibility to face the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, and to affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. If you are new or returning after a time away, welcome. Feel free to fill out a blue welcome card, and you can put that welcome card in the offering plate here on the chancel, right over there, after the service. And when you put your name on the welcome card, it allows us to put you on our email contact list. And if you're online, there is a link to the welcome card in the meeting chat. For those of you who are here in person, thank you for wearing your masks. We have KN95 masks in the back for anybody who needs one. When we join in singing our hymns, we ask that those of you here in the hall sing softly. If you are at home watching from Zoom, sing as loud as you feel like. We will not have a social hour today, and that's because our annual meeting will be beginning about 10 minutes after the service ends, and there will be a link in the chat to the annual meeting that will start after the service. And now, we will begin our service.
We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirits seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith. We bid you welcome, who hope to find here room for your spirit. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in saying the words to accompany lighting our chalice as Ginny lights it for us. We light our chalice in celebration May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations. May we bring our gifts of love and service, and may we know that we are not alone, but connected to the universe, to this community, and to each other. And please remain standing, and we'll sing together, "Come, Come, Whoever You Are." And now, I'd like to invite new members to come forward. One of them is already up here, Patty. And online, we have Rick King, and I don't know if Kirby is here. Today, we recognize and extend a congregational welcome to everyone who has joined the Society as a member since last May. New members, Rick, I don't see you yet. Turn on your videos if you're online. Kirby, if you're there, you can turn on your video. And
I'm here.
Catherine Nelson, a member of our Newcomer Connections team, has flowers for you. And now we have a couple members of the Board of Trustees who are going to greet you. Are they there?
Thank you.
Laura?
Yes.
There she is.
Very good.
Ed?
And Ed?
Just a second, Laura.
Sure.
Laura, we're waiting to get the sound in the Great Hall.
Very good.
So many moving parts. No, she was speaking. Get closer, Ed. Ed. Laura, try now.
Good morning. I can't hear me.
Okay, now try. Okay.
Good
Go ahead.
morning. Good morning.
You're on.
Okay, good morning. I'm Laura Porter, and I'm pleased to be one of the board representatives to welcome you this morning. UU Minister Lawrence McGinty wrote, "To this house we come bringing our boldest dreams, seeking here the inspiration and strength to make them be. To this house we come hoping to bury our broken dreams and to be sustained through the pain they have caused us. Here we seek challenges and commitments that may lead to greater wholeness and deeper meanings. Strange place, this house. Here we cry, sing, laugh, hurt, dance, touch, survive, celebrate, grow, Search, doubt, hope, rejoice. Pray, trust, care, learn, think, wonder, be, become. Wonderful place, this house, where we are welcome and where we welcome one another.
Here she is.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Henrichan, past president of the board for a couple more hours. I am very pleased to be a part of this ceremony, albeit virtually. Today, we are welcoming Rick King, Janet Clark, Patty Cowden, and Kirby Grimley. Is there anybody else that I've missed for new members? We're so happy that the four of you have chosen to become members. Members of what Reverend McGinty called a strange place, where we cry, sing, laugh, hurt, dance, touch, survive, celebrate, grow, search, doubt, hope, rejoice, pray, trust, care, learn, think, wonder, be, and become. We're glad that you have included yourselves in our story and in the history of this congregation and the larger movement for which it is a part. All of you have already made contributions simply by your presence and in other ways as well.
I invite you to please rise and join in welcoming our new members. The words are printed on the screen and in your order of meeting. Welcome. Every new member strengthens our community. Every new member brings new gifts. We are glad you have joined us. New member?
We're glad to be here.
Let us now all covenant together. We come together freely as members of the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. We pledge to work together to build a welcoming community where all can safely learn and grow, to respect and support one another, follow the call to be our higher selves, and inspire one another to service and to making our world a better place. And now please remain standing in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Janet, are we doing the same hymn that we were on this?
Excuse me?
You didn't call the same service. Same
Oh, sorry.
hymn.
No, it's 360.
Yeah.
You're right. Here we
Okay.
have gathered. We're done. No more mistakes.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who speak here find they have been heard.
at home is welcome and encouraged to turn on your videos. We'll switch the view to gallery view, and you can do that too. And if you're in the Great Hall, turn around first and wave to everyone who is at home. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here. We have 56 screens, and we've got more than 50 people in the hall. So 56, subtract 10, add 3, however we do it. And then multiply by 1.25 and add the people here. That's how we figure out how many people are in the service this morning. And it's wonderful to have all of you here. Kirby, wave, Kirby, wave. There she is. We've got everyone. And Rick, where are you? Are you still there? Hi, Rick. Welcome, Rick. All right. It's good to see everyone. And now our new member, Janet Clark, who is a very active member of our Climate Action Group, has a social justice minute for us.
Good morning. So I'm Janet Clark, a member of the Climate Action Group, and this is the Social Justice Minute, which recognizes that our faith calls us powerfully to action on social justice and the environment. Industrial agriculture has been revealed to be an extractive industry. Heavy tilling, massive tractors, monoculture, multiple harvests, and profligate use of biocide chemicals kills life in the soil. Where once there were prairie grasslands, now we see ecosystem collapse with dust and desert. This contributes to climate change. We don't usually think about massive soil death when we sit down to dinner, but if we did, we might change the menu. Brave farmers and ranchers all over the world now regenerate damaged soil as they grow more carbon-neutral products. Gabe Brown of North Dakota says they now farm in nature's image with no tilling and diverse perennial crops. The farm's pasturage techniques for cattle, sheep, goats, and chickens have restored grasslands and increased mineral and water cycling. Similar regenerative practices are being used by Alejandro Carrillo in Chiapas, creating lush grassland habitat for birds and other wildlife in his ranch. A vineyard in California is using goats instead of machines to clear between rows of grapes. Sunshine Farm in Colorado is raising Navajo Churro sheep to regenerate depleted hayfields. Maasai cattle owners in Kenya are rebuilding soil health, measurably drawing down carbon into the soil. Organic farms here in our community are good stewards of our vital landscapes, and they need our support. Please look for organic, regenerative, and 100% grass-fed choices in stores, at farmers markets, and in farm stands.
Thank you, Janet. And now it's time for us to consider our gifts, our financial gifts to this society. Our generosity makes everything we do possible. And it helps us support organizations and movements within the greater community. Half the proceeds of every week's offering go to support the society's operating budget, and half we share outside our walls. You can mail in a check, you can donate online, you can put a check or cash in the offering plate, which is on the chancel after the service. And now we have our offertory music from the choir. And choir members, I'm going to ask you to stay and just stay here during the meditation, which will be short. And we won't have to get up and go back twice. Now let's just take a moment to be together in silence, to consider the gifts of our lives, and to feel the beauty and the sacredness of silence in community.
lights. Blessed are those whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and right. Honor is their earthly prize. By their work we realize faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. We have shared a radiant hour when the truth has made us free, and the Spirit's gracious power dreamed of good that yet shall be. Bright the path before us lies. Joyful pilgrims, now we rise. Life calls us on. Life calls us on. Life calls us on. Calls us on. Life calls us on. Life calls us on. Life calls us on. Life calls us on.
Booker and I sang that at General Assembly, the UUA General Assembly, a few years ago. It was much more fun singing it here. So I have a reading for you that I'm calling Why Robert Wrote His Rules, which comes from the New England Historical Society, their website. So born in Robertville, South Carolina on May 2nd, 1837, Henry Martin Robert graduated fourth in his class at West Point in 1857. He showed promise as a soldier and excellence as an engineer. And after teaching a bit at West Point, he supervised construction of fortifications around Washington, D.C. as the Civil War loomed. In 1862, the Army assigned him to New Bedford, which was then thriving as a center of the whaling industry. Robert was a deeply religious Baptist, and he joined the First Baptist Church there as an active member. And one day in 1863, this was of course during the Civil War, Robert got elected chairman pro tem of a meeting at his church. It was a public meeting, and the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the defense of the harbor. And the meeting collapsed into chaos. Mr. Robert was so embarrassed that he vowed he would never attend another meeting until he knew something about parliamentary procedures. Our second hymn this morning is number 129, Let Love Continue Long. I invite you to rise, body or spirit, and join in singing.
Love
So I hope in a little less than half an hour, or in half an hour or so, we'll start our annual meeting, which is our first combined online and in-person annual meeting. We've had two online annual meetings, and so moving forward, this is the way we'll be doing them. And we will follow the procedures that are known as Robert's Rules. The apostrophe comes after the T. It's important. I became curious about where they came from and how they became to be this procedural Bible for meetings of all kinds of organizations. And it was in part because of his experience, or at least that's what catalyzed the experience at that 1863 meeting in New Bedford. Henry Martin Robert wanted to know how to conduct a better meeting. And so he looked through books of parliamentary procedures, and he found them useless at best and ridiculous at worst. So he wrote his own. And the latest edition, it's gone through many editions. The latest edition was published in 2020. So whoever's running our meeting today, if you haven't read the 2020 manual, you're probably out of date. No, Jan, I'm just kidding. And there's a family trust. This is unbelievable. All of whose trustees are descendants of Henry Martin Robert, and they control the franchise today. So it turns out that some organizations actually specify in their bylaws that meetings will be run literally by that book. I haven't ever served on an organization, on a board, or been part of an organization whose bylaws had that provision. But most of the board meetings and special meetings I've ever experienced anywhere seem to follow them, or at least their general outline. And just so you know, the bylaws of our society are silent on how the meetings should be run. So you might be a little surprised that there's no law or rule that says we have to use Robert's Rules. I'm not trying to make trouble. I thought about John Lewis talking about good trouble. I just thought it was interesting, because sometimes we get really hung up on them, particularly in smaller meetings, and there's no rule that says we have to do it that way. Just so you know. They can save time, especially in a large group. They do save time. Coming in knowing that a meeting will follow some clearly defined procedures means people don't have to figure out and spend time debating how the meeting will be conducted. It's also said that using the rules allows minority opinions to be heard and factored into the majority opinions and decision making. And that's the part I'm not so sure about. Because I wonder if Robert's methods and rules are diligently followed, I wonder how seriously different opinions can genuinely be heard, particularly if they're minority opinions. And I've seen over and over, how kind of for, against, right, wrong thinking is not the best way to make complicated, difficult, important decisions. Because when we dig in behind the barricade of one unshakable opinion or its opposite, we stop listening to one another, and I think we can lose sight of and even stop caring about, maybe, the common good. And understanding the common good in our Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence, and in our community and in our country at large, is rarely something that's straightforward or simple to figure out. And most importantly, often the common good is not the same thing as what's best for the majority, or what the majority thinks is best for them. And we're seeing every day that majority rule in some forms can be a form of tyranny and oppression. We see it in states working hard to disenfranchise black voters. We see it in a Supreme Court poised to overturn Roe versus Wade. It is frightening, and it is worse than disheartening. Henry Roberts said that the best of people, having wills of their own, are liable to carry out their own views without paying sufficient respect to the rights of their opponents. I agree with Henry that respect for others' rights is important, and so is respect for their feelings, and so is honoring the lived experiences that underlie those feelings. That's something we learned about in the dialogue work that many of us participated last year. And Dave Reutman and Teresa Amabile gave a service that touched on these themes back in March. It matters that we recognize and honor feelings, and that we realize and acknowledge someone else's experience may be different from our own. Perhaps different from the majority of the people in the room, even here. One of the groups in our congregation that's been working hard this year has been the Widening the Circle team, and part of their work is to help us better realize and acknowledge that others' experience may be different from our own, different from that of the majority. Part of that work is to ask us to think about modifying how we do things, all kinds of things, just to better include new or less often heard voices. And I think that's part of the common good. So you might be interested, some of the meetings that are conducted in larger UU settings, including ministers of the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association, of which I'm a member, are now using something they call a progressive stack for deciding in a meeting who gets to speak when. And that means that people who self-identify as a person of color, as lesbian, gay, transsexual, bisexual, transgender, non-binary, as someone with a disability, those people get to speak first. They're in a separate line. They're in a separate queue at the Zoom, in the Zoom queue. It has been an interesting change to watch, because like most meetings, like most groups, you can predict, if you go time and time again, who's going to speak. And what has happened is that that's changed over time. Fewer of the people who predictably, in pre-Zoom days, went to the microphone first, now dominate those meetings. And it doesn't mean that cisgender white males and females don't get to speak. They do. And here we are, and I am so proud of you and of us, and happy to say that in this community, we have learned, and we're still learning, not to rely primarily on debate and right-wrong thinking in making important decisions. In recent memory, we have done something different when we've made decisions that require a lot of input and when people have divergent ideas and points of view. And you've probably heard me say this before, but you remember divestment, if you were here a while ago, divestment from fossil fuels was one of those decisions. Becoming a level 1 sanctuary congregation was another. And in neither of those processes did we start out with a widely shared, listening, respect for other people's views and feelings approach. But we got there. And from the divestment experience, we did a better job in sanctuary. Both of those experiences taught us, and I'd say this, and not without any struggles, better ways of making decisions together. And we felt good about them. There were informational meetings, there was space for questions, there were many opportunities for people to express feelings and ideas, to ask questions, to listen, and to be heard. And the big congregational meetings, there were 2 big congregational meetings that used Henry Roberts' rules, were at the very end of the process. So here we are, still facing COVID. Did anybody think we'd be sitting here with our KN95 masks in May? Mark did. You didn't? Oh, Mark says no. He didn't think so. And he's a doctor. in many, many congregations of all types, not just UU congregations, congregations all over the place. The pandemic experience has come with dissatisfaction and with conflict, with sharp declines in participation and financial support, with lay leadership departures and ministerial departures. And this has not happened in our congregation. I do know there have been some disappointments, and I do know that some people have drifted away. But I also know that new people have found us, including those who don't live within easy driving distance, like Rick. We are still together, and we are still strong. And that is because of all of you. All of you. Your commitment keeps us strong. You continue to lead, support in conversation circles. You continue to drive or shop or bring meals to one another. You continue to advocate and challenge us to do more for climate and racial justice. You continue to organize efforts now around the 2022 election. All of that began in 2020. It takes a much, much larger team, as you have seen now, to make services happen both online and in person. Not just on Sunday mornings, but behind the scenes as we learn and reinvent and keep reinventing and try to prevent the mistakes that we keep making because it's complicated. And I am so grateful to everyone who is part of that team. And I know you are all as well, because you've said it. So thank you to everyone on the Sunday setup process. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And since last June, members of the pandemic transition team have been meeting. They met weekly and then bi-weekly, struggling as the shape and impact of the pandemic continues to shift. They have faithfully and thoughtfully considered the factors that would keep us as safe as possible, while also meeting the needs of our spirits. They've asked for your input, and they've listened to what you've had to say, and every time, this is amazing, over 100 people responded to the surveys. That's incredible, and that is remarkable. It's another tribute to all of you, to your commitment and your caring and to your patience and to your graciousness in the way you have responded. So as I was writing this, I'm struggling. How can I thank so many people? So many individuals, so many committees and groups and teams. And you might remember when we had a kind of end of sanctuary service and we put names on the screen, and we realized after there were pages and pages of names of people to thank, and we left people out, which was hurtful. So I didn't do that. But it's also hot in here. And we need to have an annual meeting in a few minutes. So I can't thank you all in person, but I say again, thank you all. Thank you for all you are doing. Thank you for those of you who help make us strong simply by being here, by your presence online and in the pews. We will begin our annual meeting in about 10 minutes after the service ends. Those of you in the Great Hall are welcome to go outside and talk with each other unmasked for a few minutes. The Zoom service meeting, the meeting that you're in right now, will end, and you'll need to log back into the annual meeting, which you can find if you're online and you're saying, well, if I log, what's going to happen? Go back to your phone, or just wait a minute, log out of this, and the link is also in the email that you got this morning. So the link to the annual meeting, if you can't get it through the chat, if that doesn't work, there's you got an email this morning that has the link to the chat there. And then Julie will put the Zoom, the link in the chat if that works. But if for some reason it doesn't, because we're still in this meeting when you do it, just go back to that email. Soon we will thank our outgoing officers, we'll elect new ones, we'll vote on accepting the fiscal 2023 budget. We will use Mr. Roberts' rules to conduct the meeting, and we will conduct it in a spirit of care and commitment, gratitude and respect, as expressed in a modern version of the 1629 covenant of the First Parish Church in Salem, Massachusetts. That will be on the screen, and it's also printed on your paper orders of meeting. So I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join in saying that covenant together. we covenant with one another and do bind ourselves together in the presence of this religious community to express our deepest and most cherished convictions as they are borne by each person to find a common vision for a better world. To seek the life of the Spirit as it is known by each person, choosing with reverence its name, and to walk together in the way of truth and love as it is shown to us and to all people in word and deed. And now please remain standing in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 318, We Would Be One. Go now, take a little break. I hope most of you can come back for the annual meeting. Go in gratitude for this community. Go in hope and go in peace.